How's that willpower bullshit working out for you? Well, I got a little triggered today. This person isn't, setting out to trigger me, but it triggered kind of a thought process, that is often, that people automatically go to when they are being successful with willpower-based endeavors and they see their addicted friends or family or other people and they kind of judge them for their failures at, trying to kick whatever it is they're addicted to. It's easy to, when you're being successful with something, to stand on your soapbox and be like, this is the best fucking way ever. Why aren't you doing it this way? You're a piece of shit for not doing it this way. You have no willpower. You're a piece of shit, but you suck. The fuck's your problem? And I'm a lot better about recognizing it now, but I sometimes think I have found, myself in that judgmental position of people that are addiction. And I am in no fucking way in a position to judge anybody that's addicted to anything. It's because I am every bit as much of an addict. It's just my addictions may be slightly different than those of that person. But it doesn't change the fact that these are biochemically driven behaviors. These are ingrained survival pathways that are now abused in modern society. And we all like to think we have free will, that we can just think and do and command ourselves to do or not do things. But that's not how our brains are set up to work. So what I'm going to talk about today, we're going back to the addiction, issue, as I myself am battling various addictions, and I'll go over a few of those in this video. But I just kind of want to talk about where I'm coming from on this. But I'm going to start out with this comment that sent me on this whole fucking path to where I immediately had to turn this fucking camera, the shitty camera, on and make the fucking video. It's not really a shitty camera. It's just not, as high quality as my other cameras, and it bothers me. I guess I want better video quality. So, leaving that aside, John Foreman commented, "Why no willpower? Can't say no thank you. I know you want to balance, but cheating on your diet just makes it harder to get back where you want to be. I know we're all different, but cheating to me just shows that people have no integrity." Now let me stop right there. That is a very judgmental statement, and I know you didn't, you're not being malicious. I can tell from the mood and tone of your comment that, this is legit how you think of somebody. Integrity to me is when you are not being honest, either whether it's to yourself or others about a behavior or, whatnot. And I'm going to get into that a little bit, but let me finish it. Just my thoughts. Keep up the videos. And I appreciate that comment because it got me thinking, got me wanting to debate a little, which is where some of these videos come from. It's not a matter of integrity. You got to understand, the dopamine system was put in place, through evolution, through us needing to reproduce, to go out and find and get food, to learn to hunt and gather, to learn how to build a shelter, to learn how to keep warm, to learn how to build fire, to learn how to drink water, to get up out of bed every fucking day and go out there, or we would fucking die. That is why this system is in place. It is to motivate us. And it's not just in humans. This is, if you look at rats, they go through the same fucking system. And what it is there's a, dopamine, which gets released as a reward when you achieve one of these survival objectives. You go out, you kill something, you get a good meal, huge dopamine hit, pleasure. You feel that, and your brain says, hey, we just got rewarded. We need more of that shit. So let's go out there tomorrow and get us another bigger fat fucking deer and fucking carve that shit up and eat for a month. Or let's go find that, beehive and try not to get stung while we get the honey out of the motherfucker, because that's a big dopamine hit. We like that dopamine hit. And, back then, it was a balanced system. We were able to use that system to our advantage. It kept us alive. Didn't keep everyone alive. There were some people that just sucked at shit. And then that system would drive them out there. They'd go out there and die. Now come to modern times. Somewhere along the way, we figured out how to monetize that system. That it could be very profitable to trigger a human being's dopamine system and thus begin the process of reward-seeking behavior that follows that spike. Every time you hit up your dopamine, you trigger a pathway that drives you to seek another dopamine hit from some survival-related things. And your brain associates where that hit came from and tries to get you to repeat that behavior. I've explored the concept of addiction transfer. What happens if you get your dopamine from a different source? And I kind of came up with that idea, for example, when you're playing with your phone, which is an addiction, you're generally not eating, you're not beating off. Well, some people are beating off while using their, that's combining two, and then they're really going to be looking to do that again. But, you're generally satisfied in the moment with whatever the dopamine hit that's going on. Sometimes you combine them, yes, and then you get a bigger dopamine hit from that, but then you're going to want to do that combination again. It's all behaviors, and I know that from my personal experience, since I've quit sugar, that I've replaced that with artificial sweetener, that I legit get a dopamine reward from consuming things that have artificial sweetener, whether it's as simple as a cup of coffee, which also gives me a reward for the caffeine. And, but since I'm stoking that pathway, my reward-seeking behavior is not going to be to go get a donut afterwards. It's going to be to go find another fucking coffee, pour some more artificial sweetener in it, or put it on top of some 100% chocolate. It's a healthier form of the dopamine hits that I was getting from the sugar. That is if you do not manage the addictions with that frame of mind, with okay, I know I can't get rid of the addiction. I know sooner or later my willpower is going to fail. I'm going to cave and I'm going to do that. And consequently, I haven't found anything in the realm of alcohol to replace alcohol with from a dopamine perspective, especially since my social setting is often in a bar. Plus, I do work part-time in a bar. So, it's kind of, I haven't perfected this. I'm exploring it. I'm experimenting with it. But I do understand that there are people that are not even aware of this, that are not aware of the biochemistry behind our addictions, and are virtually fucking powerless to it. The integrity you mentioned comes into play as they lie to themselves and those around them to justify their addictive behavior. When they do not recognize it for what it is and justify it by telling themselves it's just going to be this one time, or I'm just going to have one. I'm famous for that one. I'll just have one drink tonight. I'll only bring enough money for one drink tonight, and then I'll whip out the fucking debit card and drink myself silly. You know, we tell ourselves these things, and that's where the integrity part of that equation I could see from your perspective. But you've got to understand that there is a powerful biochemistry behind our addictions, behind the behavior. If you do not go out and seek that reward after that dopamine hit, you will be hit with depression, you will be hit with anxiety, you will become stressed out, irritable, angry. You'll lash out, you'll be aggressive, and I've done all of this. I've done it, because I'm pretty good with the willpower. You have to be to do a water fast on the standard American diet. There's just no way around it. You have to be a strong-willed motherfucker. I know people that can't go 22 hours without food, because they do not have the willpower necessary to do that. And that is understandable. I don't judge them. You know, I keep telling them that you got to work your way up. Eventually, it does become easier. And it's kind of a push and shove situation to get to the longer fasts on the standard American diet. We got to really identify, you know, and it's to the point now where I reference these things as dopamine spikes. I treat dopamine like it's the drug. There are different delivery methods. You know, beating off, dopamine spike. Eating sugar, dopamine spike. Drinking alcohol, dopamine spike. Staring at this motherfucker in a room full of friends when you're sitting right there and should be social, dopamine fucking thing. Done it. You know, going shopping, buying tons of shit, dopamine spike. There are so many things in our society designed to pop that fucking bubble and send you on that reward-seeking behavior to get the same dopamine spike. Once you are aware that that is what's behind your reward-seeking behavior, you can channel that to a different reward. Preferably one that isn't going to fuck you up, you know, cause you to lose friends, you know, send you to the hospital, cause you 20 years of your life, cause you to become obese. You know, we need to find addictions. And it is possible to trigger this reward pathway in a non-lethal way. For example, this YouTube channel. Big dopamine for me. And you want to know how I know that? Because when things don't go well on the channel, my depression kicks in something fierce. And I bust my ass furiously to fix whatever I felt didn't go well on this channel. That is an addiction. I'm addicted to making these videos, to growing my channel, to growing the business of YouTube so that I can do this for a living and not do the other bullshit. You know, I am addicted. It is social media after all. Plus, I spend an inordinate amounts of time watching other people's shit on here. You know, that is an addiction. But I would argue that that addiction has brought so much positivity to my life. It's a lot of you have come and told me your stories. You've told me inspirational stories. You've told me your pitfalls so that I could look into them. And some of them are similar to things I went through, so I was able to share with you how I overcame those particular difficulties. So it's taking our addictions and transferring them to something more productive in our life. And that has become the focus of my treating my bad addictions. And alcohol is probably the only one that I'm struggling with. I've kicked sugar. I'm going to try and take on artificial sweeteners in the coming months. I don't know that I'll win that battle because can you reduce your levels of dopamine? Can it gradually become where you don't require as much of a spike to offset the reward-seeking behavior and the depression, anxiety, and shit that can go with that. That is why although keto has stabilized my mood, it's reduced my depression significantly to where they don't last days on end, and they're not soul-crushing, in tears depressions, which I've had. It has stabilized, but not eliminated being down, so to speak. And I'm sure you've noticed in the past, like the last video, in fact, I was not in the best of moods. So it's not perfect. I haven't perfected this art. I'm working on it, but I've noticed improvement. I've noticed a trending direction for the things I've been doing, and I'm not going to sit here and, what I'm doing is not easy. It's not something everyone's going to do. I can't judge somebody who fails at it, or who doesn't, have the willpower to even do a 16-hour fast, or to quit sugar, or to do all of that. I have a friend that, is struggling to quit the bad foods. They want the health benefits, but they don't want to give up the pleasure. And, and I'm trying to be better by not preaching, because we all know I can be a little preachy, and generally friends don't like that shit. They're not hanging out with you. They could watch it on YouTube. They don't need me to fucking browbeat them whenever they're fucking up, in person. But at the same time, if they engage me in conversation, I tend to wham. And he's probably watching this right now, so he knows who I'm talking about. But, I'm trying to get better about this myself, to not stand up on because I have accomplished so much in my lifestyle, in my health, in my weight loss, that I don't want to judge people who fail. I want to help them overcome those failures. That's what my channel's kind of about. It's about me sharing my good times, my bad times, the things I'm struggling with, the things I've struggled with in the past, and how I dealt with them, new experiments to try and give me more powerful tools. I think we should have a diverse array of ways of dealing with shit, and, we need to do that if we're going to overcome these addictions. I'm looking forward to the day where I have absolutely no desire to have a drink. I am at war with myself about New Year's Eve. Part of me wants to go, fuck it, it's been a hell of a year, a lot's happened this year, I'm sitting here building something from the ground up with very little, leeway as far as financially, whether or not I can survive doing this. And it's stressful. It's not easy. Anyone who's ever built a business, and this is my third business I'm trying to build, you fail a lot. You take a lot of risks. It was a risk quitting a full-time job to try and do this along with photography as a, survival model. And I'm surviving. I'm not trying to be a baller. It helps to be minimalist and do these things. And I am happy with my choices as a minimalist too. I'm not regretting that at all. I'm not coveting material shit as much. I have a lot of stuff as it is. I'm looking to weed some of that down. I have things that are pissing me off that I still have them. I have a 360 camera that hasn't been turned on in months. That bothers me. And I'm aware of these things, and I want to deal with them. I want to get rid of things that are taking up space. I want to sell that camera, for example. I haven't gotten around to that yet. I don't even know if anybody will buy it, because I don't know that anybody wanted 360 video. So, these are all things that you have to take in mind. So when you see somebody struggling and failing at addiction, the best thing you can do is not condemn them as to they don't have integrity or willpower. They might not, you got to understand, some of these things have some huge dopamine responses. Huge. And you do it repeatedly over years, which means it takes more of a spike to even feel anything, to even get pleasure. Sometimes you're just doing those behaviors to feel normal, to not feel like shit all the time. To not be, driving all of your behavior and all of your thoughts towards that one reward, toward spending your every waking moment pursuing that reward, to being driven nonstop towards the goal of getting whatever it was that provided you that dopamine hit. And that is an ingrained pathway in all of us. We would not be here if it didn't exist. What we need to do is manage it now. Why do we need to manage it? Because the world is set up to take advantage of that system. Everything we do. Do you think food companies are stupid when they come up with a laboratory filled with scientists who studied biochemistry, studied the human body for years, and came up with formulas to give you the bliss point, which will give you the maximum dopamine spike so that you will once again seek their product to get a equal spike, which doesn't happen because each time you spike it, you don't get as much the next time. And you have to either take in more of whatever the fuck it was, or you are going to start combining addictions to get that level. That hence you will acquire new addictions to go with your current addiction. And it is a self-feeding cycle. The only way to defeat it, obviously, would be to reduce the dopamine spikes. But when you do that, that reward-seeking pathway kicks in, and you become miserable and unhappy and depressed and stressed and anxious and angry. All of these things come into play when your brain's telling you, dude, go get the shit. Come on, it's right there. Fucking do it. And you're sitting here, no, I got willpower. I got fucking willpower. Shut the fuck up. I'm fucking trying not to eat and shit. You see what I'm saying? It's not like people don't have integrity. They are pretty much a slave to their biochemistry. We all are. I am no different. I am able to hack the system a little bit with the knowledge I've acquired, and I'm encouraging others to acquire that same knowledge and use these tools to combat this system. And a lot of it has to do with combating the modern things that are taking advantage of our reward pathway in the interest of money. And as a result, we are losing ourselves to the modern world. You know, we spend all of this time working to seek these rewards, which are not required for our survival. Most of the things we seek nowadays have very little to do with food, clothing, shelter, and whatnot. We have met most people, not all, have their basic survival needs. And yet we bust our ass working 70 hours, 80 hours, sometimes 100 hours a week so that we can get more shit and more fucking dopamine spikes. And then we're so miserable from doing all of that, and because we're probably not getting a lot of dopamine at work, that we come home and binge on whatever dopamine we can get at home. Whether it's playing around on social media, whether it's alcohol, whether it's food. Food's a big one. Food is huge. There are so many people who turn to food for comfort and happiness and pleasure. And we have to dissociate food from pleasure if we are going to manage that addiction. Otherwise, you're going to want cheat days. You're going to want to say, I don't give a fuck, it's Christmas, time to stuff my face. Oh, it's New Year's, time to get liquored up. Everyone's getting shit-faced. I got to get shit-faced too. It was a hell of a year. This year sucked. It's time to fucking say goodbye, motherfucker, and drink. You know, we have all of these justifications but the root of the matter is that dopamine / reward system that is going to drive us to do those things. Is there some alternative to what I can do on New Year's to spike the dopamine and not drink? I'll be thinking about that. I might just drink and regret it and be miserable, feel like shit for a day or two afterwards. You know, and not to mention maybe even ruin the time that's there. I don't know. I'm trying not to. I'm resisting the urge to. But the urge is there. And it's taking willpower to combat that urge. And willpower is not easy. And it's not sustainable long term. If you are using willpower to stop doing things, sooner or later, that willpower is going to fail. You are going to relapse. You're going to fall back down a rabbit hole, or you are going to find a new unhealthy addiction that brings you to the level of dopamine you had with the current one that you're trying to quit. I think if we think about it in a more targeted manner, in trying to find a more productive or healthier dopamine hit to replace the bad one, that's where we start to make kind of a hack of the system that has already been hacked by society to take your money. You know, people are profiting from that system on the back of your ass right now. Trust me, it's happening. You might not be aware of it. Sorry to be the asshole that brings that to your attention. But somewhere, someone is making a whole hell of a lot of money off of your addictions. And realizing their addictions and managing them, that is where you can take the empowerment back and take more control of your life and have the willpower. Don't get disheartened if you fail. It's not all your fault. A lot of people will label you that way. They'll say, it's your fault, shithead. You should have had better willpower. You shouldn't have been a piece of shit. That's not true. You are driven by a survival pathway. You know, your biology is compelling you to do whatever the fuck it was that triggered that pathway to begin with. But becoming aware, that's where we differ. That's where we can inject a level of control, is becoming aware of it. And then figuring out other ways of spiking that pathway that have a better outcome than the one that's really bad for you. That's my opinion. You know, some people can find a cause or a thing that they love to do that's rewarding to do, that does not destroy their life, that does not destroy their health, that doesn't destroy their relationships. And that's why I disagree with John Foreman's comment. None of us should be judging people who fail at these things. I know a great many of you, and you've told me, that cheated through the holidays on your diet and are planning on recovering and can take heart in the fact that you know what to do to recover. But you do need to try and figure out how to reduce the amount of fucking times you cheat and have to go through the long recovery period, which can suck after a while. And for me, it took a year or two of continuously being in that, I'm going to fuck up, I'm going to do what the fuck I want to do this weekend, and then paying for it for 3 weeks, and then all that 3 weeks sucked, I'm back to where I was before I fucked up finally, you know, and then getting tired of repeating that cycle. That's what led me to break it, you know, and not to say that I don't occasionally still do it, but it's become so much more dissatisfying for me to have a cheat day, you know. And even though I did get through the holiday without breaking the diet as far as the kinds of foods I was eating. I didn't carb up. There was no sugar involved. You know, I went maybe 20 or 30 grams over my 50-gram limit. And that was my cheat, so to speak. And the resultant recovery period was a matter of a few days. I am back down in my waist size, my belly size. And to where I was. And I'm still a couple pounds lower than when I started the fat fast. I haven't regained all of that weight back. And maybe I won't. I still got a few more days of normal eating. And by normal, I mean keto and keeping my grams proper and not going over my 50. So that the fact that I didn't stray too far over the line mitigated the amount of recovery time. And it's finding that balance. Do the best you can, even if you don't keep pissing ketones or getting the blood ketone meter to fucking beep at you or have the breath, you know, or whatever way you're trying to track whether or not you're ketosis. I don't do that. I'm more results oriented. I know when I'm fucking up, and I did this weekend. Even only fucking up a little bit, you know, by 20 or 30 grams of carbs extra in my diet from keto sources. Even then, I knew I fucked up and saw the physical results of it and recovered from those results. Without fasting, by the way. I just stuck to the keto, made sure to cut down on the fucking keto baked goods, and here I am, you know, bacon, eggs, you know, butter, my normal routine, a little bit of dark chocolate for a treat, my coffee with the fat in it, some salad mixed in here and there, you know, some cheese, some pizza topping bowl that I did, you know, nothing spectacular, you know, just normal, average, you know, foods. I haven't eaten out. I'm also trying not to spend money currently. That's kind of experimental. I could go out and eat, but I'm really getting sick of the vegetable oil thing, which we'll get into in another video. So don't judge anybody. Help them. Help them out of their funk. Give them ideas, especially if you've overcome an addiction, a significant addiction, and how you did it. What kinds of activities did you do to overcome your addiction? Share it in the comments if you have. How did you kick the habit? How long has it been gone? Have you had cheat days or moments of weakness during that period of quitting? And some people have to go cold turkey their whole life and force themselves to endure the depression, the anxiety, the reward-seeking pathways, vengeance when you don't go out and get that reward. And that takes an incredible amount of willpower and does deserve some acknowledgement that they were able to. That's not an easy thing to willpower through. At the same time, we can't really condemn people who haven't awakened to that system, don't understand. All they know is they are compelled to repeat a certain behavior, or they feel like complete shit, depressed, miserable, and sometimes physical addictions coincide with that dopamine system. So, don't judge somebody based on them having a cheat day or even a cheat week, or maybe they just fell off the wagon for a month or two. But they know they're fucking up. They see the scale coming up. They see that their health markers are fucked up. And that's what's ultimately going to lead to them changing, is them realizing they felt better when they weren't in that cycle, when they escaped it, that generally the contentment level started to rise, that the depressions were a little less, that the emotional stability crept in, and that, they didn't feel this energy crisis all the time or these problems that crop up. They become lessened significantly and noticeably. And after enough times, that's why I stress getting back on the horse. Fall off, get back on. Fall off, get back. You're going to start to notice the contrasts of how you feel when you're partaking in these dopamine-driven activities versus how you feel once you've kicked the habits, so to speak. And that is what is important. So, I'm not here to judge anybody, not even vegans, who are clearly addicted to being vegan. But hey, maybe that's healthy enough for them. Maybe that's better than where they were at before becoming vegan. You see what I'm saying? I don't agree with a lot of things, that people do. But at the same time, I know the mechanisms behind it. And it doesn't absolve you of responsibility. There are actions you can take to rectify the situation. But it does not exactly lay the entire responsibility at your feet. There are others who are taking advantage of that system and making profits off of that system. There are others who are encouraging you to seek that behavior to justify their own behavior. That is where the integrity might come into play. You ever been that one guy trying to be sober in a room full of people drinking? Well, some people are like, okay, he's not drinking, that's cool. And then there's some people like, hey, take a drink. My ex is an example of that. When I quit drinking when I was with her, it was like, are you sure you could just have one? You could just have a couple? No, I can't have any. You don't want me to be a dick, right? Well, guess what? I can't drink. So have a nice day. It's that kind of, way of dealing with things. We have to find better ways to channel this pathway, to channel our dopamine and reward-seeking pathways for our benefit, not the benefit of some motherfucking guy's wallet or gal's wallet. And you know what? In the end, when you do that, it benefits your wallet. Just saying. But remember, I'm not a fucking expert. This is just my little philosophy on the subject and things I'm applying to my own life. But do the best you can. You know, I'm just an asshole who's also dealing with several addictions, you know, and I move them around. I switch from addiction to addiction in an attempt to find the best ones. Mainly because when I hit that reward pathway, that reward-seeking behavior, my depressions tend to be fairly significant, and can stand in the way of living my life. So to me, it's important to experiment and figure out the most productive ways to fulfill that pathway and not be a slave to it, as many people are, and they don't even know it. And that's not their fault. There are other people intentionally taking advantage of that system. So let's take the power back, so to speak, from the people who have been taking advantage of it for years and take control of our own biology, our own hormones, our own neurotransmitters, and make ourselves better, happier motherfuckers. All right. I'm off my fucking soapbox. Just wanted to respond to that comment. That comment really kind of got me. I'm like, really? I got no integrity? I get on YouTube and tell everybody when I fuck up. That's the epitome of integrity. So, you know, I'm not lying to myself when I fuck up. I'm like, yeah, I'm fucking up. Hello. Yeah, this is bad. I'm doing it anyway, but it's bad. You know, I know that I'm failing at willpower at that point. But when you've exercised as much willpower as I've done in the past 3 years to get where I'm at, it gets a little fatiguing. That's why willpower alone is not a sustainable model for kicking addiction. You have to find other things to stroke that pathway. Willpower can only keep you on the straight and narrow for so long before you cave, because life has this way of kicking you in the nuts, you know, of taking big steamy shits on your lawn that you got to clean up, and after a while that reward pathway is a calling, and you'll go right back to doing it, and you'll justify, you'll be like, oh, it's just this once, it's been a bad week, blah 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 blah, this happened and that happened, it's time to go get shit faced, it's time to go load up on a fucking dozen donuts and some cookies, it's time to drink some soda, it's time to eat some candy, it's time to fucking do all of this, time to go on a shopping spree in the mall to buy shit that I don't need. You know, there's all kinds of things that happen as a result of the stresses that life throws at us. And sometimes life throws those stresses with a certain amount of intentionality that causes you to get out there and spike this behavior. So, if you like my shit and you want me to make even more shit, please like and subscribe and click the little bell so that you know when I take a shit on the YouTube. I mean, to where I put more shit on YouTube and shit. That will keep this channel going. Also, if I brought some kind of value to your life and you would like to return the favor and help encourage me to spend as much time as possible doing this instead of going out and making money elsewhere, you can contribute to the channel via the virtual tip jar in the link in the description below. Also, if you go to ScottTheTruckDriver.com, Monday through Friday, I do a written vlog or blog on there, usually talking about my current endeavors with weight loss, health, and other issues that I may be or may not be dealing with, channel news, that kind of stuff. And also occasionally some rants and triggers when I don't have the time to put out a video. I can sit down and write something there and post it. So that happens there. Sometimes I even post on the weekends, but I'm trying to not work the weekends. Good luck with me there. Coming soon, there will be a podcast available on ScottTheTruckDriver.com. Keep your eye on it if you're interested in that. I'm thinking it'll be $1 to $2 per download. I'm not sure what to do yet. I'm still working on that. Podcast will be anywhere from 2 to 3 hours at a time, probably. So you're getting a lot of content for that, you know, small donation to the channel. And that's exactly what the proceeds from that will go towards, is keeping me doing this as full-time as I can. Feel free to like my Facebook page too. I'm interacting a lot on there. A lot of my blog posts get funneled to there in case you wanted an easier way to keep track of when I put something new on the website. I tend to also share it on the Facebook page. Patreon I'm distancing myself from, but it is still there. You can find links in previous videos, but I'm no longer promoting that as the place to go. There are, however, some people who want to stay there, and Scott the Truck Driver on there is if you're interested, but I'm not doing any reward tiers on Patreon. So that's where I'm at. This is it for this week in videos. I am still trying to pump out some editing on some previous videos and some photos that I've still got to knock out. Plus, I'm prepping for a wedding shoot this weekend, so there's not going to be much more in the way of content this week. Well, you're probably watching this on Friday anyway, because it takes a while to upload and edit. So that's all I got for you this week, and I hope to see you next year. And shit. So have a nice motherfucking day. And shit. And believe it or not, you all have integrity. It's not, your fault if your willpower fails. Especially if you acknowledge it. If you lie to yourself about it, then you need to have some integrity with yourself or something. Because ultimately, that's who you got to convince. Nobody else. You got to convince yourself that you need to change and you need to improve. Nobody else is going to say shit to convince you if you can't do that for yourself. I should write fortune cookies and shit.